Let us put our palms together. We respectfully invite JianHu Shifu to start the class. 3 half bows to JianHu Shifu.
1 half bow to the Buddha.
阿弥陀佛。
We begin with a 5-minute silent meditation. Okay, let us begin the class. Let us put our palms together. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. We are continuing to study the primary afflictions. There are 6 of them, and we've gone through 4 of them. So the 6 of them are greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, and false views. Today we're going to look at doubt and false views. Now, false views is a big one. Okay, so we'll see. Let's look at these 6 as a group. The first 5, greed, anger, arrogance, ignorance, and doubt, they are what are called the 5 dull agents. And false views, there are 5 basic types of false views. And these 5 types of false views are called 5 acute agents. Agents means, in this context, means something that pushes you to do something. Something that pushes your mind to create karma. So the false views, they are of a slightly different type from the first 5. They are views, they are beliefs, they are what you perceive. And they are at the background of how we react, how we think, based on our beliefs, based on our perception, our views, okay? So when we have false views, then our reaction would become greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, or doubt. So previously in the Heart Sutra, Shifu has explained that there are the false views and the false thoughts or false thinking process. The thinking process is our reaction, right? So the false views are the root, because we believe wrong, because our perception is incorrect. So our thoughts, when we think about a situation, when we react to a situation, we react in a way that is called greed or anger or arrogance. So these first 5 are dull agents. They are agents because of the false views. So remember, the Buddha always tried to get to the bottom of the situation, the root of the problem. So the root of the problem are the false views. We have incorrect perception of reality, the world, people, and ourselves. Incorrect perception of who we are, and therefore we have incorrect perception of who people are, right? And that these false views lead to behavior or reaction, the thought process that make us behave in a certain way and have a personality in a certain way, and specifically create karma that make us unhappy or feel trapped or feel not free. So if we turn the false views around into right views, correct views, right, then the problems can be solved. If we do not identify the false views, we don't know what they are, then we can work very hard, we're putting a lot of effort for years and years and not get very far. Okay, so let us look at doubt. The definition of doubt. Its nature is hesitation and indecision regarding phenomena and underlying principles. Its function is to obstruct non-doubt and to undermine wholesome factors, right? Like all of the other primary afflictions, its function is to undermine or stop, obstruct wholesome action, wholesome thoughts and wholesome action. So hesitation, indecision, we are not sure. We cannot come to a rightful decision regarding phenomena and underlying principles. So these are the two things. Phenomena refers to what is happening, what we see is happening. You do something, you say something. I do something, I say something. Something happens. That is the phenomena, right? But for everything that happens, there is a reason. There's an underlying mechanics, underlying principles, and the underlying principle is what we call cause and effect, or the law of causality, the principle of causality, right? Basically, what it says is that for everything that happens, a right set of cause and conditions must come together for that to happen. So if we can understand this, identify this, observe through this, then we have a chance to change the situation around, to reverse or to modify the phenomena, the event that happens, right? So something happens in your life today, that is the event, that is a phenomena. It's already happened, so you cannot change it. But the next moment, the next day, right? If we understand the underlying principles, then we can change it, right? So it's always useful to consider not only the phenomena, what is happening, and also to what are the causal conditions for this happening, for this event. So we are indecisive. We are unable to decide about what is the reason, basically, behind a certain phenomena, or why this is happening. Why am I suffering? Why am I unhappy? Why am I anxious? Why am I feeling stressed all the time? Yeah. Why do I have so much anger? Okay. Why do I have so much craving about something or someone? So we don't know why. We think about it, we cannot come to the right conclusion. So it obstructs non-doubt. Non-doubt basically is the opposite of doubt, right? So we can make a decision when we need to. When we come to the right understanding when we need to. Obviously, it seems like the opposite of doubt, right? Faith or trust. Correct discernment and correct resolve work together to remove doubt. So we talked about discernment. Remember, discernment is one of the important factors, one of the important specific factors. It's the basis of wisdom. It's the basis of right understanding. So it's the basis of awakening, if we use it correctly. If we apply the wrong discernment, the wrong reasoning, then we make mistakes, we have false views. Okay? So correct discernment is important. And to correct resolve. So resolve, remember we also talked about this factor. So resolve is when you see something and you come to a decision. You have decided this is what's happening, or this is what it is. Yeah, you see this, and you very quickly come to a resolve. This is a thermal cup. I can put my warm water in there, and I drink it during class if I need to. So these are, minor resolves. When it comes to how you judge a person, how you judge how you make an important decision, the correct result becomes very important. Right? So faith. Remember we talked about faith as a wholesome factor. Why it's so important in everything we do. Specifically, every important project or long-term project we do, faith is important. So this faith is not only religious faith. It's about faith in your goal, faith in your ability, faith in the worthiness of the project. Together, we move doubt. So it's very common to have doubt about many things, to be uncertain, to hesitate about many things, because there's so many things in life that we don't yet understand. But if we understand how to remove doubt, then that's useful, right? So we need to have correct discernment, and we need to make decisions along the way, even if they are small resolves. And we got to have faith. Have faith that, hey, I can do this. I will make progress. I will become better. I can achieve this goal. They also help build stronger faith and sophisticated discernment toward the realization of truth. What that means is sophisticated discernment. There are issues or underlying principles in life that is quite profound. For example, to understand non-self, to understand why the self is not an independent, it is not a separate entity. It is not a permanent thing, even though it feels that way. It feels like, okay, I have been I ever since I was born, ever since I was little. There's always the sense of I, right? So the I at 5-year-old and the I right now at 60 plus years old, you don't think that you are two different persons. Even though many things about you have changed, there's the underlying belief that this is the same I. So to break that hard, subconscious, deep-rooted idea of I, it's a very profound thing and requires sophisticated discernment. So this is kind of a helping process to help faith, correct discernment, and resolve help remove doubt. And once our doubt is removed, we can make progress and continue on the next stage of making discernment and trying to make the resolve. And then our faith becomes stronger. Yeah. So when we begin studying Buddhism, we may be just curious. Say, okay, I heard it's pretty good. I just want to check it out. So there's a lot of doubt. There's some faith, but as you continue to learn the Dharma, maybe your faith increases because the discernment and the result. You come to say, this makes sense. Let me try to apply it in my life. And when you apply it, it actually works. It actually improves the phenomena, the situation. It actually helps you deal with situation you don't know how to deal with, right? How to help you deal with difficult people and you feel like you are getting a handle on how to deal with these difficult situations or people because of what you learned in the Dharma. So these are a result of discernment, resolve, and application. And then that give you a stronger faith. And that help remove some of the doubt that you had in the beginning. And that help you keep going to study and try to understand more profound Dharma teachings like emptiness. Okay, question. Can faith and doubt coexist? Now, on the surface, it seems like faith and doubt, they are opposite of each other, right? But this is a good example of our names, our designation, our labels. Remember, faith, doubt, these are labels. They're labels. We're trying to understand our mind. We're trying to understand what is going on in my thoughts, right? So I have certain thoughts. I have many different kinds of thoughts, mood, and feeling. Yeah. And so we attach labels. We attach 100 labels. That's 100 dharmas, 100 labels onto these phenomena in our life. So they help to organize the world of information and experience into these 100 dharmas. Remember, they are still labels. Okay, so in the 100 dharmas, we study the labels and their definitions and see how they correspond to our experiences. But we also need to know, but we also use these terms in our daily life. Even without studying Buddhism, we use terms like faith, we use terms like doubt. Yeah, we use terms like good and bad. Now, when we use these terms, remember these are convenient designations or temporary or relative designations. They these labels simplify the phenomena. They simplify the phenomena. So in your interaction with a particular person, let me ask you, is there somebody in your life that you trust? And is there somebody in your life that you don't trust? So you have doubt, right, about that person's character or behavior or motivation. These are very common, right? We all have these. Now the labels, trust and distrust, will seem like mutual opposites. Can they coexist in the same person? Do you know somebody who you trust but also distrust at the same time? It can happen, actually, right? The reason it seems like paradoxical that trust and distrust exist at the same time, it seems paradoxical because we are trapped by the label. That if you trust someone, you cannot distrust that same person. But think about it. There's so many sides to a person, so many facets to a person's thinking and behavior. It actually is pretty reasonable that you trust this person in a certain way and you distrust his judgment in another way, right? For example, if you have a friend who is an engineer, you trust his engineering sensibilities or knowledge, but then you don't have to trust his cooking, right? You don't have to trust his way of dealing with relationships, or you can, or you don't have to. So the trust and distrust can exist at the same time, right, on the same person. Because when we use a label like trust or faith or doubt, we are trying to simplify the phenomena, right? So we need to know the limitations. So can faith and doubt coexist in our practice, in our studying of the Dharma? Yes, of course it can. But how? In what way? So we'll study this. First of all, there are three types of unwholesome doubt. Obviously, we're referring to unwholesome doubt here. Doubt as a primary affliction. We're referring to the unwholesome doubt here, right? And there are three types. One, doubting the Dharma. Nitpicking to invalidate authenticity. Two, doubting the teacher. Not trusting virtuous mentors, say. Three, doubting oneself, unsure of one's own potential to attain enlightenment, or to do meditation well, or to understand, to the ability to be able to understand profound concepts like no self or emptiness, right? So these are the important three types of doubt that hinder our progress, that may stop us from becoming enlightened, from even studying the Dharma, right? So we know people who come to Shifu's classes, and then after one class they disappear. They disappear. Some disappear because they're busy, and some disappear because they have doubt. Now the doubt may be in the Dharma. So I remember a case where many years ago there was a student in my class. After I think 2 terms of classes, right? So level 1, level 2 classes, he came to me and no, I think he only attended 1 term. So after 1 term, 12 weeks of classes, he came to me and said, Shifu, everything you say makes a lot of sense, but I just can't believe it. I'm a Christian. And it's just, the whole thing is just so different from what I always believe. So, the lawyer, he has to think very logically, right, to be a lawyer. So he finds that the teaching, the Dharma, is logical, is rational. It makes sense. But then there's something inside that push him to not want to accept it. This is interesting. And when I heard that, I thought, oh, interesting, because my own process is going from a non-believer to believer, to no faith or distrust to faith, through reasoning, through examining the Dharma. It's the Dharma that convinced me to be a Buddhist and to be a monk, right? And through this process, I doubted the Dharma in many ways. Well, it's less like doubt, but more like questioning. I question the Dharma constantly. Why is this so? Is this really true? How can I verify? So I do question it all the time, right? Until at some point I come to have faith. I say, okay, now I have faith that the whole thing, the whole system that the Buddha presented is real, it's true, it's authentic. But there are still aspects of it that I need to think about. But I do have the faith that eventually I will come to see its truthfulness. That's why I have this unshakable faith, right? But that took many years. So here, doubting the Dharma, that means you don't even give yourself a chance to understand it. You don't even the person doesn't even give himself a chance to study it, to say, okay, this is possible, let me think about it. This is interesting, let me think about it. He just outright rejects it after a little while, right? So this doubting is pretty superficial. And my faith is that if anyone give enough time and genuine interest in studying the Dharma, they will come to see that it's true. That is my faith. And I accept any challenges. All right, so nitpicking to invalidate its authenticity, that kind of doubt is destructive to a person's progress, right? Doubting the teacher. So it's always an issue, right? Why should I believe in this teacher versus another teacher? Or why should I believe in any teacher? Right? Any Dharma teacher, any Buddhist teacher, whether it's a monk or a lay person. So again, doubting the Dharma, there are two sides to it. One is a genuine interest to keep on questioning, and the other is a superficial rejection. I don't want to believe this, even though it may make sense here and there. And doubting a teacher is the same. You know, when you don't know anything about a teacher, like JianHu Shifu, you can have your doubts. You can have your doubts, and then as you come to know this teacher better, you need to make your own assessment, right? So doubting the teacher being a fault, being a problem, is that it is possible to see that this teacher is a good teacher, is a helpful teacher, is a virtuous teacher, or is a knowledgeable teacher, right? The teacher is good in a certain aspect, not necessarily all aspect, but in certain aspect, the teacher is good. And even though it is possible to recognize that, for some reason, you just don't want to accept it, right? Not trusting virtuous mentors. And doubting oneself, unsure of one's own potential to attain enlightenment. Similarly, in this case, I believe that it is possible to convince people that they have great potential, no matter what state you're in right now. Yeah, if a person is unable to think correctly now, is off the deep end, then that's probably very unlikely for this lifetime. But in the next lifetime, still a chance. But as long as you can still think, right? I believe that it is possible to convince that person, or to try to convince the person that they have potential, They have greater potential than they think they have. But that person needs to be open up to this, to be willing to listen and to consider that possibility, right? If a person is so strongly and firmly believe that they are useless, they are no good, they are stupid, then it's very difficult to help that person. So doubting oneself, again, we are referring to this irrational doubt. You can doubt yourself. You can doubt your abilities, right? Everybody does. But then are you willing to accept evidence or examine yourself objectively to see that, hey, whatever I'm not good at, there are ways to improve. And if I take these actions, take these steps, I can become better, right? So I always say, oh, I'm tone deaf. I don't know anything about, I don't know how to play any music instruments. Even though I like music a lot, I don't play any instruments. I can't learn anything. I can't learn to play any instrument. But deep inside, I believe I can. I just don't want to spend the time on it. I just don't have the patience to spend enough time on it, right? But many others do, and they become good, right? So when I say I can't play instruments, it's not a doubt of my abilities. It's really I don't want to spend effort so much time on it, right? So it's not a genuine doubt. So the doubting oneself here refers to an irrational belief, or this irrational belief that you can't do it, you're not good in some way. So these are detrimental, right? These are very harmful to a person's life. Okay, before a practitioner attains genuine right view, remember right view is the first of the Eightfold Path, right? Do you remember the Eightfold Path? Let's run them down. Right, one is right view or right understanding, referring to the perception, the right perception, right? The opposite of false views, the right view. The right view, number two is right thought or right thinking, right? So once you have the right view, you need to think along these lines. And the third is right speech, and the fourth is right action, the fifth is right livelihood, the sixth is right effort, the seventh is right mindfulness, the eighth is right samadhi. Okay, so right view is the very first one. So before one attains genuine right view, the correct perception of oneself and people, right, and life, it is necessary to examine both teachings and teachers to distinguish truth from falsehood. Right? Obviously, you should not just go around and believe in every spiritual teacher you will encounter. There are a lot of false teachers too, yeah, or false teaching, false philosophies. So before you attain the right view, you need to examine both the teaching and the Dharma and the Dharma teacher. Otherwise, one may fall prey to misleading teachers and heretical doctrines. Therefore, rational inquiry is an important step, whereas unreasonable doubt, or unreasonable or irrational, unreasonable, for example, you nitpick on some very difficult, to want to have more and more and more evidence, even though there's sufficient evidence, acts as a primary obstacle to spiritual cultivation. So for spiritual cultivation, we all know that faith is important. So every religion wants you to have faith in their teaching, right? Buddhism is the same. But then in Buddhism, the faith should be acquired through discernment, through right discernment, not through blind faith. Just because Buddha says so, just because Shifu says so, just because somebody says so, you should believe it, right? So before we attain the right view, it is reasonable to examine spiritual teachings carefully. So Buddha himself encouraged that. So everything we taught so far, right? So this is the 11th class on the 100 Dharmas. All the previous 10 classes, any part about it, it is reasonable to examine it carefully yourself in order to avoid false teachings. Yeah, it is possible that I say something that's not entirely correct. So if you do discover that, you should definitely let me know. Although I try not to, right? However, irrational doubt, bias, and stubbornness are serious hindrances to seeing the truth. So these are all part of the doubt. This irrational doubt, this bias, and stubbornness, all contribute to you to have this doubt affliction, right? Here's an interesting thing: pseudo-scientific doubt. What is that? Because I encountered that a lot, right? Doubting the existence of currently unexplained phenomena. There are many unexplained phenomena in this world. When science cannot yet prove that they are false, they don't work, they don't exist, then you believe that this is fake, this is phony. For example, acupuncture. There are people who swear about acupuncture because they have benefited from it. Myself being one, right? I have had experience with acupuncture teachers for maybe 20 years at least. Okay, and they've been very helpful. The treatments when I need it is very helpful. Okay, but then there are groups of doctors, Western trained doctors who still think that it's a fake science, it's a pseudoscience. Of course, it's not science in the strict physical science perspective, right? But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It can work really well in ways that we don't fully understand. So, I try to understand what this meridian and the chi is. Yeah, I don't think there is a good scientific explanation of it yet. Not that I know of. But then it works. So just because there's no explanation or scientific explanation doesn't mean it doesn't work. Now, if you think because of that, then acupuncture is fake science, or it's a pseudo thing, it's a fake thing, it's a placebo effect, that will be a pseudo-scientific doubt. You will appear as a scientifically trained person, but then you're not really doing the scientific judgment here. Why? Because regarding something like karma, acupuncture, reincarnation, and unexplained supernormal phenomena, right? Science have very little say about it. It has very little say about it, not because these phenomena are not real, because science is limited. Science is very limited in scope to something you can measure, to algorithms you can specify, right? To cause and effect steps you can spell out. That's what science is good at. But then there are many phenomena in this world that somehow works, but then the explanation is not clear yet. To reject it will be unscientific, actually. To accept it, you may say, okay, to accept it is unscientific, you can say that. Not because of the phenomena itself, but because science is limited. But to reject it because science cannot prove it is a mistake. It's actually not science. Because if science methods cannot say something about the phenomena, that's what it should say. I don't know about reincarnation. I don't know about the validity of karma. That's what the scientists can say. I cannot prove or disprove the validity of karma and consequences. But you cannot say that doesn't exist because science cannot prove it. All right? So to have that kind of doubt because science has not yet been able to prove it is a pseudo-scientific thing. It's irrational. It's irrational. So reincarnation, I can understand that many modern people have a lot of issue with believing in reincarnation. I too. I came to this country, I came to the States when I was 14 years old. Even though in my native culture, in the Chinese culture, reincarnation is everywhere. Meaning that the cultural aspects of reincarnation. There's so many stories about reincarnation. Everybody just take it for granted, whether they believe it or not. I mean, they're not surprised to hear something about this. Of course, still Chinese people don't believe in it too, but it's part of the culture. It doesn't seem to be part of the culture in the Western culture, in the dominant Western culture. It doesn't seem to be part of the culture. So that's what I'm referring to. I myself had issue with reincarnation, whether it's true or not. So it took me the longest time to eventually come to the conclusion that it has to be this way. It has to be this way. Without the previous life, this life, and the future lives, there's so many things in life that cannot be explained properly. Yeah, so I now believe in it, not because I've seen it with my own eyes, but because of logical deduction. So that's a topic we can talk about later. But anyway, major cultures and religions all have many accounts of previous life memories. We're talking about previous life memories, and that are academically verified. Did you know that? Meaning that they take a person, a professor in some research university, doing some research, they take a person, usually a kid, who seems to have memories that they cannot possibly know. Memory about World War II and the airplane types and so on. And then or about accounts of people in the faraway places they've never been to. So they study and discover the place or the event, and actually it happened as the kid said. Right? So there's a professor, there are professors in the United States universities who have done hundreds, if not thousands, of accounts of these studies, and many hundreds of cases are verified this way, although they cannot explain. They can verify that the accounts are true. In one case, this kid actually remember him being the brother of somebody, and that somebody that was in World War II, and that somebody is an old man now. And the kid knows about details of the family picture that only the family member would know from hundreds of miles away. So these have been verified accounts of previous life memories, although there's no explanation in science, right? Okay. Do you find it difficult? So now we've finished about the doubt part. A couple questions. Do you find it difficult to trust others? Or what about yourself? Do you trust yourself? Why? So think about it, okay? Some people don't have issues. Some people are too trusting. Some people are very distrustful. Yeah, there are all types of people, and because of their experiences in this life or previous life. Some people are born distrustful. Some people are born trustful. And that is because of past life experiences. Anyway, so no matter what, right? This can be changed. If you're too trusting and you have fallen prey to many times, there's a way to change that so you can be more careful, right? And if you're too distrusting, that could be irrational, and then you can examine it and then take what is rational doubt and then learn to trust someone when there's no real evidence, right? So that behavior can be changed. How to achieve a balance between faith and naivete or blind faith. So on the one hand, we have people who are very naive and they believe whatever they say. So whatever people say, they have blind faith. Now, this can happen with science types and engineer types too. You know that? Even engineer science, who's supposed to be very logical, they have very illogical aspects in their personality. That's what I found out. Many of my acquaintances and friends are engineering types and scientists, but they can be so logical in their field, but they can be also very irrational in other aspects too. So when it comes to religion, that is true too. When it comes to their faith. Okay, what would be the right balance between healthy doubt and trust? So again, doubt and trust, doubt and faith can coexist, but it has to be a sort of a healthy balance. What would be the healthy balance for that to happen? What would be that? Question, doubt is listed as one of the primary afflictions, yet there's a Zen Buddha saying that goes, 大疑大悟,小疑小悟,不疑不悟. Basically, with great doubt comes great enlightenment. With small doubt comes small enlightenment. With no doubt, there's no enlightenment. That's a very common Zen saying in Chinese Zen, in Chan. So, should we question the Dharma or not? How about we open the discussion here? What do you think about this? Zen masters say, with great doubt comes great enlightenment. What are they talking about? With no doubt, there's no enlightenment. On the other hand, doubt is one of the afflictions, right? So should we question the Dharma or not? Yeah. Should you question what I'm saying? 看看有没有 yeah, we can open the microphone. Okay, here's somebody says, I trust my husband without finances, but don't trust him with the laundry. That's pretty funny. Yeah, don't trust me with the laundry either. I just throw everything together in one batch. Yeah, don't care what happens. Okay, anybody have a take on this about doubting and the relationship with enlightenment and doubting the Dharma? Okay, why don't we ruminate on that? All right, let's look at I think there's a couple more questions. Okay. Give 3 examples of pseudo-scientific doubt, that is, people using science mistakenly to justify their misplaced doubt and stubbornness. The hint is that, know the limitations of science. Okay, I'll give you one. The first one, 100% believe in scientific results and what scientists say. Do you know people who 100% believe in scientific results and what scientists say? Why is that a mistaken belief? Those of you who are scientists here should know, right? Those of you who are scientists, you should know. So the reason that 100% believe in scientific results is that throughout the history of science, there have been many times when scientific theories have been believed by most of the scientific community, but then it turned out to be wrong later. Okay, that happens constantly. So whatever science says, the scientists are careful to say that they are theories, meaning that they're not truth. real scientists don't say what they say is truth. They say what they say is a theory. Now the theory needs to be verified, right? Obviously. So the things that science believe or tell us that work have been verified many times, but still there are times when a trusted scientific theory turn out to be not correct completely. Okay, good example is classical physics, classical mechanics. Newton, came out with the bulk of that theories. It's very, very helpful, right? But then Einstein came along and said, well, okay, Newton's theories are not always correct. They are approximation of a deeper underlying principle. So Einstein modified that with theory of relativity to make where Newton's theories didn't work well, to make it work better, right? But then even Einstein's theories are not complete. Einstein doesn't claim that they're complete. They're still pieces, right? That doesn't connect together, right? So real scientists are very careful about the limitation of what their theories apply to. But common people who doesn't know this, they may have a blind faith in science and what scientists say. For example, what is healthy and what are good for the body? Every few years or maybe every year, this change. It's not strict science. It's not pure science. There's a lot of variables that people don't know yet. Let's move on. In the past, little scientific evidence concerning qi has been reported. However, a group of scientists now believe that qi is actually the result of the body's mitochondria, the batteries powering mitochondria. Remember your high school biology, huh? The batteries powering muscle recruitment, talking to each other. Interesting. While this theory may or may not end up being accurate, the development of such a theory is an example of how little science understands about certain phenomena today, but may understand future. That is a very good point. The qi is something that I've always been very curious about. You can feel, sometimes you can feel the qi going, but then there's no correspond. It's more like in Western medicine or biology, there's no labels or designation or concepts that correspond to qi, right? So it's not that qi is a made-up phenomena. It's something that's very real to many people. But then there's in the Western scientific taxonomy, there is no term that corresponds to it, right? So development, a study of that is definitely going on. And it's an example of how little science actually knows. Yes, there's so many things that science do not know. Science knows quite a lot about physical world, but when it comes to biology, when it comes to real life, when it comes to psychology, human psychology, there's so much. It's like a vast unexplored ocean yet. Okay, do you have doubts about your potential to achieve great things? What about enlightenment? All right, this is an important question. Do you have doubts about your potential? Okay, let's take a vote. If you have doubts about your ability to achieve enlightenment, give a +1. +1 for doubt, right? You don't believe, you have difficulty believe that you can achieve the enlightenment of the Buddha. Put a +1 there. Let me see how many. Okay, if I have lived countless past lives and I haven't achieved enlightenment yet, it stands to reason that I still have a long way to go. That's a good way to put it. We may have a long way to go, but if you look at the many real life phenomena, things could take a long time without much happening, and then at some critical point, there's a big change, right? that happens a lot. So in terms of evolution, the one mutation can make a whole thing, very different. I just read this story before. You know that all the avocado that we eat come from one single mutation from one single farm on one single tree. So avocado used to be pretty not so tasty, and not so people really don't care much about it. But then there's farmer who in United States somewhere, he planted hundreds of trees, and there's one tree had a mutation, and that avocado tastes really good. And from then on, all the avocados in the world are a duplicate, a copy of it. Okay, so by planting the branch planting, it's called Hess avocado. So every avocado you buy is Hess avocado. That Hess is the name of that person, that farmer. Okay, so the evolution of avocado can happen for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and then one mutation, certain change, and then all of a sudden becomes a great food, a great fruit, right? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, there's still a few people who have doubts. It's all right. We'll give you some more time. Hopefully, Shifu will be able to convince you that you do have the potential to become a Buddha. All right? I have more work to do. All right, let's just take a 5-minute break before we go on to the next one, which is false views. And that's a big one. If you want, we can close our eyes, don't look at the notes, and think about what we learned about doubt today. What are the 3 types of doubt? Doubting the Dharma. What else? Doubting the teacher, doubting yourself, right? Does your irrational doubt in some area brought you some suffering? Has that happened before? How can rational doubt be used as a positive tool in avoiding irrational doubt? So I think a key question here is, how can we balance healthy doubt and still maintain a trust in people and yourself? Okay, let us return for the second part. There's a question in the chat room. Does the number 5 have some special meaning? Of the 6 afflictions, 5 are grouped together, and the last false view, which we're going to study now, have 5 subsets. There are 5 elements in Chinese medicine, 5 leaders of the early Shaolin monastery, 5 ancestors in a martial arts style called Wu Zu Quan, and more, quite a few coincidences. Well, Chinese certainly like 5. We think 5 is a good number. We don't like 4. 4 sounds like death, 死. So we try to avoid 4. In a license plate, some hotel go as far as to not have any room number with a 4 in it. But then, this is an Indian text. I don't know if Indians have any cultural things about numbers, right? They certainly like 84,000. That happens a lot in Buddhism. I know that probably, I'm guessing, the Indian culture have a lot to do like numbers. Buddhist teaching has been organized into 1 categories and 2 categories and 3 categories and 4 categories. In fact, that's one of the ways to how the Buddhist dictionary is organized. So you look at all the teachings that's category by itself, so 1 things, right? So like 1 mind, single mind, whole-minded concentration. 1, and there are 2 teachings revolving 2 things, like concentration and clarity of mind, the samatha and the vipassana, right? And then there are many 2 things, the dualistic views. And there are many things who are the 3 categories and the 4 categories and the 5 categories and 6 categories, right? So the 4 noble truth, the 4 right effort, the 4 kinds of, there's many 4 things, and there are many 5 things too. Okay, so I don't know, maybe Vasubandhu like 5. All right, let's continue with false views, which is the last of the afflictions. Now remember, at the beginning of the class, Shifu said that false views is slightly different from the previous 5. This is the root, this is the perception, this is the view, this is the understanding that is wrong, the misunderstanding, okay, of anything, of life, of yourself, of people, right, of spiritual practice, false views. Because of the false views, our thought process, which becomes reactions to things that happen to our lives, are grounded on, centered, or stemmed from these false views. And so therefore they turn into greedy behavior, anger behavior, arrogant behavior, and so on. Okay? So this is more fundamental, false views. They may also be translated as deviant views or heretical views or wrong views. You get the idea. Its nature is defiled wisdom. The reason that it's used wisdom here is that it's intelligent. Sometimes these false views are quite sophisticated. Okay, some smart people come up with it, but it's defiled, meaning that it's incorrect, it's a misjudgment or misperception, and characterized by distorted analysis and misinterpretation regarding phenomena and underlying principles. Again, this is the phenomena, right? This is phenomena. This is the event. This is something. For example, you have solar eclipse. That's the phenomena. What is the underlying principle for solar eclipse? So every other person know now. It's because the moon got in line with the sun and the earth, right? But in the old times, people didn't know that. So there were all kinds of explanations for solar eclipse. For example, in Chinese culture, in ancient Chinese culture, solar eclipse are interpreted as a disaster or a bad omen for something that gone drastically wrong. So some kind of natural weird phenomena that happen in nature. Sometimes the Chinese emperor have to blame himself. Oh, it's because I have done a good job. I have failed to trust the people. So I repent. Sometimes the emperor will do that in order to atone for the bad sign from the heavens. Okay. So in other cultures, maybe solar eclipse was also a sign of disaster or something very bad or whatever. Okay. All right. So these defy wisdom, these wrong interpretations, these false views regarding phenomena and underlying principle. Now, if you get the underlying principle right, that can correctly explain the phenomena, then that will be the right view. If the perceived underlying principle doesn't really explain the phenomena, it's actually a wrong explanation or wrong interpretation or wrong reasoning, then that will be the false view. Okay? Its function is to obstruct wholesome views and to invite suffering. Okay? There are 5 basic kinds of false views. We're gonna look at each one. View of identity, dualistic views, deviant views, attachment to deviant views, and attachment to false precepts or wrong ethical practices. Okay, we'll look at each one. So the views of identity or self-view is the root of all of the 5 false views. Right? So the 5 false views are each important in their own way, but they are grounded on the one thing here, the identity view, meaning that who am I? The perception of I, or the explanation or the idea of who I am, right? So, for example, some people may believe that I is a fragment of the all-knowing God. Some people may believe that I was created by a creator. Some people might believe that I is the physical body and nothing else. Some people believe that I am my consciousness. Some people believe that I is my feeling. My feelings are who I am, right? So people have all kinds of views of our I. None of them is true. So incorrectly formed views of who I am. There are many kinds of identity views. The most common are clinging to the temporary, impermanent 5 aggregates. Remember the 5 skandhas? Body, the form or the body, feeling, conception, volition, consciousness. In short, body and mind. So right now we have a body, right? We all have a body and we have a mind. That seems obvious. But then we actually know very little about the real body that we have. And we know very little about the mind that we have. So one simpler way to begin to understand the mind is divided into 4 functions: feeling, conception, volition, and consciousness, right? So body is relatively simple compared to mind, but then still it's very complicated. When I was in grad school, I was studying artificial neural networks. That was my major. That was my PhD study. So as part of that study, I went to sitting on a neurobiology class. Did I? No, actually, I read books on neurobiology, and then I asked one of the neurobiology professor to be on my committee. So I worked in his lab too. So I read this book on the neuron. It is a whole book about one thing, neuron. So we have a billion neurons in our brain, right? Did you know that one single neuron is such a complicated physical, chemical, and electrical phenomena? You can write a whole book on it. And it's just so intricate and so amazing. Imagine, neuron function as like a silicon, what is this thing? A gate, right? 1 or 0. How do you make wet biology do that? 1 or 0 to signal that. So it's very, very clever, and I forgot most of it now. But then it's so clever, and then so I studied the whole book, and I was just totally amazed at how amazing what a neuron can do. And one day I carried that book to the lab of my neurobiology professor. He took one look at it. Oh, that's old stuff. It's not. It's incomplete and inaccurate in many places now. Oh my gosh. So in other words, they know so much more about the neuron now than that book that I was reading, which was like 20 years old. But still, that amazed me, how a single neuron works. Imagine this layers and layers of network of that becomes our body, right? So on the neuron level, the cell level, but underneath the cell, you have the molecular level, right? But underneath the molecular, you have the atoms, and you have the molecular level. And then molecules organize into cells. So a cell is a very complicated thing. And on the cell level, the cells are organized into like your skin, different types of cells. Your skin, your organs. Your organs consist of different types of cells, right? The white blood cell and the red blood cell, the muscle cells, the neuron cells, and so on. The different types of different functions, right? And they together they form organs, and then these different organs form systems like digestive system, respiratory system, and so on, right? And then these systems work together to become what we call the body. The body is basically a big aggregate of many, many levels of complications. And we know quite a little about it. Most common of the identity view is clinging to the temporary impermanent five regular soul. It's easy to say, I am this body and mind, but actually we don't know what we're talking about. We don't know what we're talking about when we say the body. So I'm the body. You don't know your body. You know maybe 5% or maybe 1% about your body, right? So we often use terminology, designations, labels, as if we know what we're talking about. A lot of times we don't. So it's very common to hear, "Oh, be yourself." You need to be yourself and be what you can be and do what you want. But what is I? The question is, what is I? Is be yourself and do what you want. Are you following your ego? Are you following your greed? Are you following your feelings? Are you following your rational judgment? What are you following exactly? When you say, do yourself, be yourself, right? Who is the I? You see, that's the big X, okay? So believe that whatever combination of this body and feeling, the five aggregates, as a real permanent self, as a real identity, as if that is a thing, is a fixed thing. And we can further classify into 20 views below. We're gonna just briefly touch on that. All right, so that's the first one, identity view, or who I am, right? So if you care to examine it, your idea of who you are is very fuzzy, very vague. Basically, we don't know what we're talking about, the ordinary person. All right, the second is dualistic views. Dualistic views. Also extreme views. Adopting views of eternalism or annihilationism. So these are the two representatives of dualistic views. They are the two extremes about life. One is eternalism, which means I believe that there's something eternal inside me, or that is me, like a soul or a spirit. So, for example, people who believe in reincarnation may still have a wrong view, an eternal view. That is, when I die, my soul, or whatever it is, comes out of the body, leave the body, get into a new body. And then, my body can change, my feelings can change, but there's something, the soul never changes. That is the eternalist view, and that is a false view. That is not what is happening. And the opposite of that is annihilationism, meaning that when we die, we are just this body, this biology pile of things. And when we die, when this aggregate falls apart, we're gone. Completely, totally. Now, many people believe that actually, especially people who have these pseudoscience beliefs. Many people who think, oh, this is a scientific age. You cannot, there's no soul. And there's no past life or future life. All it is this life. When you die, it's gone. Because all you can measure or all you can see and touch and measure are your body, these cells, these physical phenomena. So therefore, they only believe that in this body and nothing else. And so they say, mind is a meta phenomena. That is actually your neurons firing, and then you have this illusion that you are thinking. That's actually some scientists believe that. When I read this, I was shocked. That's a ridiculous premise, but people actually believe it. It's a ridiculous premise with no evidence. The only evidence, so-called evidence, is that they don't know anything about the mental phenomena, so therefore they think it must be a meta-phenomena, a pseudo-phenomena, based on the neuron interactions. But that's not a proof at all. Okay, so annihilationism, many modern people actually think that way, that when you die, there's nothing anymore. But the question is, what about the karma? What about the good deeds and the bad deeds you've done? Does the chain of cause and effect end sharply right there, gets cut off? So if somebody who's a big crime boss and he's very rich all his life, and the police force cannot get to him, and he lived in luxury for all his life, but he did so much crime, he's a big drug lord and so on, and he dies. Like the movie Godfather. The movie Godfather, the old Godfather, he just died of old age, I remember. Okay, so what happens when somebody like that dies? Does all the bad karma, all the people that he's hurt, all the suffering he's created, does that just end right there with his body? Then where is justice? So to believe in annihilationism, to believe that you are your body, actually means that you don't believe in justice or fairness. So both are incorrect views of life and not in accordance with the middle way. One other dualistic views, such as fixed views on right and wrong, beauty and ugliness, and one-sided extreme views are also okay. So another less severe examples of dualistic views are, for example, right is right and wrong is wrong. So if you're arguing with somebody, you have conflicting views, then you believe that there's only one result. Either I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. If you're right, I must be wrong. If I'm right, you must be wrong. Do you know people like that, or do you believe that? That is a dualistic view. This thinks that right and wrong cannot coexist. Like faith and doubt cannot coexist. But actually, that means the person has fallen trap to designations, to labels. These are imaginary divisions of, trying to divide real life phenomena into two convenient buckets: black, white, ugly, beautiful, right and wrong, evil and justice, right? These are convenient buckets. They are helpful in making decisions in life, to make decisions quickly, but then they have limitations and they don't represent the fullness of real life phenomena. So just about every important issue in life, there's no clear absolute right and wrong way of doing it. Can you give an example? So let's say two persons are arguing with each other. One believed, let's say it's a business decision. One believed that we should take the revenues, the extra money that we have made in the past year, to establish a more solid internal structure. Another person believed that we should take the money to expand while we're hot, and expand to branches, make more money. And so they argue about this next year company policy, right? So these are two opposite decisions. But can you say that one is right or the other is wrong? No, because this is so complicated. There's so many different factors involved. Both people can make arguments that are reasonable, but they also may fail to see some other factors, right? So life is multidimensional, it's not two-dimensional. So dualistic view is about a two-dimensional view of things and phenomena, right? Are you ugly or are you beautiful? That is, again, a trap. That is a trap. Yeah, you want to classify how you look or how people look into these two categories. That's just a made-up issue. That is a made-up issue. Okay, another is deviant views. Deviant views means incorrect. So, on the one hand, in a broad sense, all of these 5 views are deviant views. They deviate from the truth. But here, as one of the 5 false views, is specifically referring to the disbelief in causality, meaning that I don't believe in karma, I don't believe in cause and effect. I don't believe in, if I do, you reap what you sow. Yeah, if you do unto others as you will have others do unto you. Or as we say in the Chinese version, do not do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you. All right, so that is all about causality, cause and effect. In fact, science is based on cause and effect. Every scientific principle spell out some sort of causal relationship, except most of these are about physical phenomena. A Buddha is more interested in mental phenomena. What are the causes of happiness? What are the causes of suffering? So this type of causality, and Buddha says there is this definitely a rule or principle that we should follow. And the principle is this: if I have done things, created karma, I have done actions, I have actions that cause others to suffer, the suffering will come back to me. if I have done things, you have created karma that make people happy, that benefit people, put it this way, that benefit people, then happiness or benefits will come back to me. These are called the merits or blessings. Okay? If I create a merit, meaning that I have made benefit others, then merits will come back to me. And the opposite is true. If I cause others to hurt, if I cause harm in others, harm will come back to me too. That's basically the premise in the law of causality. So to not believe in this, to not have faith in this, is a primary deviant view. Because it lies at the center of so much Buddha's teaching. And if you look at the phenomena around you, you will see causality at work. But sometimes there seems to be exceptions, like people who do bad things, but then they don't seem to suffer. People who do good things, but they seem to suffer. Yeah, you've seen this, right? Often in these situations, we're confusing apples and oranges. For example, a person may be very helpful to his or her co-workers, but then his wife cheated on him, and then he got a divorce, and he was suffering from that. But he's such a nice person. He's such a good person. How come this bad thing happened to him? Or maybe one of his close friends or relatives pass away. Have some tragic things like that happen. Oh, why do bad things happen to good people? They were confusing different aspects of life. So if he's very helpful to his co-workers, that's a particular kind of merit. That merit corresponds to similar results, like when he needs help in the future, help will come to him. He says nothing about your close friends leaving you or dying or marriage issues. These are different kinds of karma, right? So if a person has have problem with personal relationship, that's a different kind of action that you need to work on, right? Like trying to understand each other better, try to see more of our own arrogance and blind spots and so on. And that may be orthogonal to you wanting to help people who at work. So any other incorrect views of reality besides the four named are also collected in this category. Okay, there are two more: attachment to deviant views and attachment to false views. But let us stop here, because we're not going to be able to finish false views. We need next class to finish this part. I realized that there are questions being asked a while ago, and I haven't answered. People who send the questions to info@PDZen a while ago. So I wanted to answer that, but forgot about it. Okay, meanwhile, any questions about any part of today's teaching, or any other questions about the Dharma? You can unmute yourself if you want me to talk. Is everything so clear, or everybody's confused? This can coexist. Let me see. So if no current questions, I'm gonna look at some of the older questions, right? All right, here's a question. I have encountered a lot of suffering throughout my life due to being born with a genetic condition that has affected my lungs. I have to undergo 2 double lung transplants, along with many other surgeries and lengthy hospital stays throughout my life. I'm curious, am I being put through this much suffering because I've done something wrong, hurtful, or collected too much bad karma in the past life? Okay, let's look at Shifu's short answer. Everyone has endless bad karma accumulated throughout many past lives. Sometimes one lifetime is harder than others, and learn to focus on the blessings, gratitude, accepting one's current condition is very difficult yet. Yes, but with practice you will find delight in. Okay, so basically my answer is that no matter how we aim to be a good person, there are aspects that we, in our life, actions that we have done that have led to harm to others. If not intentionally, sometimes a lot of times due to ignorance. For example, if we are meat eater, and that was for 20 years of my life, 25 years of my life. If you're a meat eater, then you have directly or indirectly caused the unwanted death of some animal. And every animal who are killed for food suffer, right? So that in my 25 years or 23 years of being a not a vegetarian, who knows how many animals died correctly or incorrectly, because of my ignorance or my greed, right? And I caused their death. My demand or my desire for eating meat caused their death indirectly or directly, right? So that is karma. Right? So that kind of karma directly into health issues. If not in this life, then in previous life. I can certainly imagine that myself have done the same in my previous life and the life before. So who knows how much bad karma I created just in this one category, right? So any kind of health issues that may happen to me, I would try to accept it, even though it may be very difficult, right? So this is not a judgment to you or anybody. It's very easy to mistaken this teaching of causality as a judgment. Oh, I'm already suffering and you're making me feel worse. You're blaming the sufferer, the victim. That's not why we teach this. We teach it like it is, right? So actions that lead to suffering of others will return as suffering onto yourself. So you can be a very good person, very helpful to others. You maybe have safe lives. Maybe you are being very kind to your caring to your family, and you donate a lot of money. All of that create a good karma. That lead to many different kinds of merit. But then they don't cancel each other. These good merit in one aspect doesn't cancel the bad karma in the other aspect, right? So I may be very good to other people, but then I have hurt other animals out of my ignorance. So that is the example. So we don't know what we've done in the past lives. We may have been, very bad person in one lifetime and so on. All of us have greed and anger and ignorance within ourselves. So the teaching here is that to accept whatever happens, and not to blame yourself, but to repent. So repent for your previous misdeeds. It's not the same as blaming yourself. In Buddhism, we are not interested in blaming. We're interested in finding out the cause and effect, change the cause, and you change the result, right? So now repent means that I admit that I have caused harm in the past, and I will examine to my current actions to try to avoid harming other sentient beings. So for example, by taking the 5 precepts, no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants, because these are actions that cause suffering unto others. So I take the 5 precepts and I repent. I still may suffer because this is only fruition of past karma, right? But I accept it as it is. I try to be tough. I focus on the blessings as well. So focus on the blessing that we still have. For example, even though you're suffering physically, you are able to hear the Dharma. You found us and you're able to learn the Dharma. And that is incredible blessing. I feel incredibly blessed to be able to find a Grandmaster and to bring light into my search for meaning in life. And that is really important. Okay? So focus on the blessings and make effort to do what you can to create good karma. That is my advice. Okay? So the compassion, contemplation, meditation, we already have 2 half-day retreat sessions out. So 4 talks in total. In a few days, we'll come out with the July teaching as well. And so at the very beginning, the very first one, I talk about how to be kind to yourself. So go read, listen to that teaching, how to be kind to yourself. Okay, next question. I'm reading through the Shiragama Sutra and had a couple questions I was hoping Shifu to answer. In part of the 25 sages speak of enlightenment, one sage, Firehead, speak of meditation, method in which Buddha named King of Emptiness, taught him a method of meditation in which they closely observe the places of warmth in my body until they become unobstructed and there could be free movement through them. Are there any resources I could read that explain the method of meditation? Okay, so in the Shiragama Sutra, which is a very, it's a massive, profound, and incredibly awesome sutra. There is a section, a famous section where 25 arhats or bodhisattvas, they each talk about how they practice to become awakened, to achieve the realization of emptiness and therefore transcend the suffering. So they talk about their own method. And this one method that he mentioned is about the person using fire, the contemplation of fire element. Now remember, earth, wind, fire, and water in the body, the 4 elements. The fire element refers to the heat or the warmth inside the body. So this bodhisattva, he practices observing the warmth, the fire, the warmth in his body until the fire, the heat, goes through his body without any obstructions. It flows freely. Now, our body becomes unhealthy when the 4 elements, they fight with each other or they are imbalanced instead of working with each other, right? For a healthy body, you need the earth, the solid part of your body, the water, the liquid part of your body, the fire, the warmth, and the air of your body to work with each other. And when part of it or part of the passage becomes stuck, becomes obstructed, for example, modern people sit a long time, right? Hours and hours every day. And people are discovering that sitting this way actually is unhealthy, right? So you want to sit and you want to move. Of course, you can sit, but you want to sit and you move. So if I remember, I set an alarm every 25 minutes to get up and walk for a few minutes or do some exercise and before I come back to work again, right? And then in sitting meditation, it's always a good idea to follow that with minutes, 10 minutes of walking meditation. Anyway, so the four elements need to work together. So this particular method, he observed the heat in his body until it gets to a point where the heat flows completely through and through, and he reached that benefits from that eventually helped him to realize emptiness as well. Okay, so are there details about this method? No, unfortunately, there's no other detail. So a lot of the teaching in these 25 sages, you don't find it anywhere else. They give you an outline, but then no detailed instructions. Not like breath counting, observing the breath, and whole body awareness. Those are taught in detail, right? But some of the methods, there's no detail. Are there any? Okay. In the next portion, the Bodhisattva who hears the cries of the Guan Yin or Avalokiteshvara describes focusing on the inner sound as the preferred method. Are there any resources? Okay, so Guan Yin. So remember, the Heart Sutra was taught by Avalokiteshvara or Guan Yin Bodhisattva, the one who hears the cries of the world. In the Shiragama Sutra, there's section on the 25 sages. Guan Yin actually explains in detail how to do the practice that make Guan Yin who he is, who he is, Guan Yin Bodhisattva, who is able to hear the cries of the world and then send out multiple transformations to help people that way. In the Shiragama Sutra, actually, this is the most detailed meditation method described in the 25 sages. It's still difficult to understand. Okay, so Shifu can explain this, but it will take at least an hour. It will take at least an hour. The key is not to listen to an inner sound. That is the wrong interpretation. It is not about listening to the inner sound. Some people mistake that. It is about using your listening. You're listening. See, when we listen to external sounds, right? But Guan Yin's method is to turn the listening inward, to listen to yourself, not to listen to your heartbeat, not to listen to your blood flow, no, to listen the listener. In other words, to observe the observer. All right? To observe the observer. To turn your knowing to that which knows. To turn the knowing onto that which knows. Try to turn the knowing not externally, but back to itself. That is the key. It's difficult, but give it a try. Are they describing focusing on tinnitus, the sort of inner hum of the? No, definitely not. Definitely not listening to any sound. Any sound, even if it comes from inside your body, that is still considered an external sound. All right, so that's not the way. Our time's almost up. Let me see if I have one more. Can I answer one more question? Okay, here's a question about our AI tutor. When asking a question in Notebook LM of 100 Dharmas, I start seeing trailing numbers, for example, 25, 26, 18, 19 in some answers. Do the numbers indicate the page number of the original document of 100 Dharmas? No. The numbers they are references to the source material. What are the source material? My lecture notes is one of the source material. The sound, the recording, the audio recording of my lectures is a source material. So this refers to the source material. So you don't need to know the numbers. It's just the internal proof that the AI tutor is answering based on what I give it. based on the source, not just some general, random, outside knowledge base. That's why it's useful. This AI tutor, why it's useful is grounded, is answered based on my teaching, the source I give it. Okay, my teaching or the source may include trustworthy commentaries on the 100 Dharmas. Okay, our time is up. So there are still questions that I haven't answered before. Haven't answered yet. A few more. We'll get to that next time. All right. Please, if you have time at the end of the session, take a few minutes, if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, to in your mind to go over the teaching today, to pick up, if not everything, but some of the important things that's helpful, and write down in your journal. Write a few lines in your journal, okay, in your cultivation journal. All right, let us conclude today's class with the dedication. May the merits of our studying the 100 Dharmas together help us understand Buddhist psychology, how mind works, and that we may get rid of the afflictions and learn the way of right discernment to bring ourselves to enlightenment. We also dedicate the merits to peace in the world. Okay, a reminder that this Saturday is the first week of August, and we'll continue with the Chan compassion contemplation teaching. Okay, we'll see you next time.
We put our palms together and thank JianHu Shifu with 3 half bows.
1 half bow to the Buddha.
阿弥陀佛。
Anyway, one more thing. Did you guys see the podcast for the first 2 classes? Do you like it? Is it helpful? Or is there just suggestions? Okay, so the podcast is an AI generated recap of the teaching. You can find the link in the YouTube video for lecture 1 and lecture 2. We have created these 2 for the previous 2 classes. Okay, so check it out. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. All right, see you next time.